fee, but the league handles all the transfers themselves. So if there is a fee,
that's how DC got Espindola and Boswell and Eddie Johnson all on the same team.
Yeah, pretty much. Because they got so much allocation money for coming in dead last year,
and also
winning the Open Cup and getting a CCL berth somehow.
Yep.
MLS is weird. What was the other thing I was going to say? Crap. I have totally forgotten. We'll move on.
That's okay, Dan. It's a great transition point while we're talking about international transfers to the supposed second allocation order for DPs, an entirely different list of teams in a different order for a DP allocation.
Yeah.
I would say this was the point at which I threw up my hands at MLS rules, but I did that like 2 years ago. So.
If you're surprised by the idea that this is a thing, like, you haven't been around the league very long.
So my question is, does this make non-Seattle fans happier about the way the Dempsey thing went down because there might actually have been rules in place, or less
I think
happy
the only people that
because-
were I think the only people that were pissed off about Dempsey were Portland fans because they were supposedly number one. I was a fan of Dempsey coming to the league to wherever, unless it were New York or LA. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think Portland fans thought. I mean, the whole thing was like, hey, we're gonna do a trade, you know.
That's
and
right.
I don't think
That's right.
Yeah, nobody thought like, oh, we'll actually sign this because
they had just seen. Well, they just
seen
earlier in the year, LA trade Mike McGee to get the allocation spot for Robbie Rogers.
It wasn't an allocation spot; it was just his rights.
Yeah.
Because
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Columbus had them. Columbus traded them Chicago for a Duro, and then
I've seen you make this exact point like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that was the only thing. You know, nobody like his salary is twice what Portland's team is as a total. So there was no thought that Portland was going to sign him. It was just like, oh, we'll have to trade for this. And it's like, no, we don't have to trade for this.
But it's not just the fact that Portland didn't get anything. It's also the fact that the league supposedly paid for the transfer, the fee.
Yeah. I don't think that supposedly. They paid for it. I mean, they confirmed that they paid for it to somebody. But I think the thing that's interesting was, so that's something else, which then Merritt Paulson talked about just this year, is that there's a list of 10 people that, like, if you can sign them, you're allowed to sign them, and just everybody else can fuck off. And Dempsey was apparently on that list, and he said there's a list of 10 names. So I'd be very curious to know who else is on that name. Yeah, and so then that's independent of this other list. Which is an allocation of teams, but this didn't. So someone was saying, Bearhalter said, this affects whether Columbus can sign Diskerud, which apparently was not the case once it actually came down to them negotiating with them. Like suddenly that problem just went away. I think it's
not the case because Diskerud never played in the MLS initially, so he's not like a returning national teamer. He's just a national teamer coming to MLS for the first time.
No, but this was supposedly an allocation.
It's any current national team player, and Mix is certainly one of those.
So what about, how does that affect Mo Adu then, and that whole situation?
Well, Mo Adu, he did go through allocation because that's who we traded Mo Adu for Jeff Park.
Yep.
So why did he go through regular allocation and not this magical secondary allocation?
So the league claimed that it was because at the time he was not a DP of a certain stature or something like that. And it was also because it was a loan deal, I think.
Yeah, and so curiously, DeMarcus Beasley also same situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense.
The DeMarcus Beasley signing made me mad.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Van Dien, come on, go AM Sports Radio. Come on. What's on your mind?
Just because I was really excited that there was a really terrible team, and that the really terrible team was Houston. Like, I was excited that there was a team that I could pick to lose every week on MLS Pick'em, and then now that not happening. So
they're still bad. They're still really bad. If it's any consolation. What?
They beat us. They beat us.
Well, you guys haven't been playing very well lately. I'm sorry.
And we've only lost 2 games in a row at Houston and at RSL. Those are.
You also lost that on the most hilarious goal of all time. Oh my God!
I don't
Not all time.
About
okay,
that.
But that was. You guys really should have had a point until just the Benny Hill theme song came on, and
I think we all collectively decided to blame Taylor Kemp for that, just because we hate him. So.
Yeah. Anyway, so what changes if there is like another does anything change for anybody really if there is like a magical second list, or does it just make us all a little more suspicious of the league? Because I feel like, to me, I was always a little suspicious of the league. It always had like a little air of like WWE-ness to it, and now I'm just like, I was right. Hey, like I'm not just nuts, you know?
You go back to the State of the League conversation that Garber had at the end of last year. John Yen, I think is his name, from Portland, asked a question about this Dempsey transfer and how the league's rules seem to shift or weren't transparent enough or whatever else. And Garber, after he gets done sort of like talking down to the New York fans that were there, telling them famously that they should have the Red Bulls charter a bus to send them out to Portland to see what we're really all about. Don't get me started. Basically flat out admits that the league is still very young and they're making things up as they go, and sometimes they make it up and they don't tell people. That was the commissioner of a sport that had been around for 17 years telling the media and the fans watching, hey, I don't know, we're just going to keep doing whatever we feel like. So,
I feel like a lot of things that they are doing have the smell of what we call A/B testing, where you just go, do you like this or do you like that? And they kind of like run it one way and then it doesn't really work, and they're like, what if we did it like this? And then people seem to respond better, and they're like, all right, here's the new rule, we're doing this. And it has a lot of times it has the feel of like, let's just see if this works, let's see if this gets people in, let's see if this builds the league. And all of their intentions are noble. I don't think anybody is like doing this just to spite one group of fans or because they like one city over another. Like, they genuinely want the sport to grow in all the markets where they've got teams and have a good, healthy rivalry and all that stuff. And I totally respect it, but god damn, is it frustrating.
Yeah.
Crazy relevant to what you're saying, Josh. I joined the United Soccer Council thing where I get the...
Oh, damn it. I never get accepted to that because I'm always, like, 5 minutes too late.
I got into that. So they send me polls and more in-depth surveys, and today I was sent a poll about, hey, what do you think of the MLS All-Star Game? Would you rather see it be versus West? Would you rather see it be MLS All-Stars versus Liga MX All-Stars? Would you rather see it be...
That.
I would love that. That
was not winning, but it was close.
Good luck getting Liga MX to agree to that, but
right.
That would be
So
really cool.
The winner, when I at least submitted, I have no idea how many votes they'd taken at that time. The winner was currently, as it stands, MLS All-Stars versus a top-of-the-table international team. Slightly below that was the Liga MX All-Stars, and then, I don't know, less than that was the East versus West.
Because I remember the thing about East versus West is that it's a nice romantic notion, but I remember when it was East versus West, and it was terrible. I hated it. I never watched it. MLS All-Stars versus random team is great. I love it. I try to watch it as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And
so for the record,
I realize that I'm one person, but I have been watching the league since it started, the whole time, and one of them is definitely preferable to the other. And by the way, in the second option, there are fewer players that play in the game, so that's less injury risk. So there's that.
Yeah.
And just for the record, they also did have an option that was do away with it altogether. And before this podcast, I had reevaluated my position on it, so I did vote for Liga MX.
Good on you, Pete.
Good on you, Pete. Speaking of weird transfer stuff, we've got to go for the double pun here. Actually, though, I don't even know how to introduce it, but in our show notes, it says... This
is a collaborative double pun.
This is a collaborative. It says, the mix-up,
really?
parentheses, but we're all still pals, right?
Okay, who did part 1 and who did part 2?
Pete did part 1, I did part 2.
Okay.
I
will say, no offense, Pete, I was more impressed by part 2.
I didn't know that it was going to be a two-parter. I
did go for the deep cut on that one. It is amazing, though. This is the second time that I mean, the Portland front office was pretty front up with just saying that Pal Diskerud kind of nixed MLS's. It was something about image rights and something else that seemed real, overly persnickety when they were negotiating with Portland. because Mix wanted to come and everybody wanted him to come. We were all excited because we heard about it, and then suddenly they were just like, oh yeah, this one like tiny little byline didn't go over with his agent or his camp.
If it were image rights, it would make a lot of sense because he's really pretty.
Yeah, no, he's very, very good looking, and I could see the man in a Pantene commercial. Just luxurious locks flying everywhere. But no, it was really like it sounded as if it was his dad that nixed it. And now it sounds like that's kind of happened again, and he obviously doesn't like people saying that, but it seems to be a kind of a consensus that that's what happened. And yeah, did anybody read the big statement that he put out where
that he's apparently super active on Big Soccer?
Yeah. Interesting. There's not a lot to do in Norway though, so I'm going to throw this out there.
I read that when I was on the flight back from Portland. So it was 6 a.m. and there were a shocking number of soccer people on that flight. Nelson Rodriguez is crammed into a middle seat a couple rows in front of me. Sarah Lerner's on the flight from MLS Digital, Sean Francis, and Grant Wall was actually on the flight. So when I read that, I nearly jumped out of my seat to find him and be like, Grant, I'm going to buy you Wi-Fi. Let me swipe my card. Come on. But I saw him tweeting back at people when we got to the baggage claim, I have my sources. I believe them.
Yeah.
Screw you, Mix.
Yeah. And the other thing is that Columbus's front office, for whatever their other characteristics are, they seem real upfront and open about what's going on, probably to the displeasure of maybe the league office and some of their negotiating partners, in this case certainly Diskerud's camp. But yeah, they seem like they're pretty upfront with what's going on. They don't seem like they're real shifty about things. So that's a shame because I would love to see him in the league, and I think it would have been a great pickup for Columbus. And I'm really bummed. I'm sure it's too bad we can't have Chris on because I know that he would have a lot to say about this. But he might just be like.
Well, he was on Mix Watch last week, right? And that was that went great.
Oh, poor guy. Another almost but not quite was the Sasha Kljestan move.
This is kind of bothering me, honestly. The amount of almost but not quite. I feel like, and maybe this is recency bias, but I feel like there haven't been this many almost but not quite moves to MLS. There are always a lot of almost but not quite moves from MLS. That happens a lot. But to MLS, I know Lampard, I guess if you counted up all the times Lampard almost came to MLS, that almost is 200 or whatever, but still.
Yeah, Ashley Cole, John Terry, most of the Chelsea team, Drogba, they're all.
Yeah, but that's always rumors from overseas. It's when our guys, when Taylor Twellman and Grant Wall say shit, they are usually right, and that stuff usually happens, and it's not happening this summer, and that bothers me.
Well, it seems like there's more people almost coming to the league who are, not quite the same suspects that get bandied about in the foreign press when it's so-and-so is 34 and doesn't really have the legs to play in the EPL anymore. They could go to MLS, and I think
Jermaine Jones is another one. How did that happen? How did that fall through?
Yeah, it's true. Well, I mean, at least it's the national team stars as opposed to yet another guy who just can't quite hack it in England.
Ashley Cole.
Ashley Cole, for example. Yeah, whoever didn't get him dodged a bullet. I'm telling you. At least we're talking about the right kinds of people. I did find Bruce Arena claiming, dark magic behind the scenes, foiling his master plan, a little funny. That's a little ironic.
What is Bruce Arena complaining about today?
I know.
Well, Ian's got it right. He's got a note right here in our show notes that clearly they rejected that move to make room for Alan Gordon.
Yeah,
it's the only logical option at this point.
Right? I mean, Alan Gordon is clearly going to a couple million a year at this point.
I'm going to go look.
If someone's paying Alan Gordon $2 million a year, they're not doing MLS right.
Well, it is the Quakes. Or it was the Quakes. Alan Gordon was on 185.
Yeah, okay. And I will say in the Quakes' defense that they went down to an LA team who were, well, actually, I still have no idea how that game ended up a draw, but they got a draw out of LA, which is pretty impressive given how well they've been playing lately. they also gave up like 20-something. It was like you looked at the shot count. It was like 24-3 or something like that. It was a remarkable game.
It was a typical San Jose game.
Yeah. Yep.
There was one thing that this reminded me of. Oh, right, Bruce Arena complaining about stuff. So now that Siggy Schmid has reached 200 wins.
Yeah, he has.
Has he? And I don't think he has, but the discussion can be had. Has he taken the mantle as greatest MLS coach of all time?
Are we leaving the men's team? You're talking purely.
I'm talking
MLS?
purely MLS, and the reason I say he is not is because Bruce Arena's coached the 2 best MLS teams in history.
But
yeah,
I think he also coached maybe a top 3. I mean,
I think he's coached the third and fourth,
third
and Bruce
best
Arena's
team?
the first
Yeah.
and second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair. They both have a double. Not a lot of people can say that. And let's see where the year finishes out.
Bruce Arena has 4 league doubles, or no, 3 league doubles, I think. Hold on.
Wait, really?
No, it's just 2. I'm done.
Yeah, that seems crazy.
He has another double, a cup double, in '96, and he has an international double in '98, but he only has 2 league doubles.
Okay.
As much as I dislike Bruce Arena, I think we still got to give it to him in terms of just MLS coaching. But certainly, like, it's the 2 of them, and then whoever is like way behind. Like they stand out among everybody else.
Right.
In
Maybe
history.
Jason Kreis is next.
Dom Kinnear.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
I'll give it.
I think Dom Kinnear's worth a shot. I think Jason Kreis is worth a shot, but I think that those 2, I think that Arena and Schmidt are
So
ask them.
hypothetically, then, and I will go on record and say I do not believe this will happen, but Siggy wins the double this year. Does that make it close enough to debate, or is it still going to be Bruce just longevity and the amount of accolades?
When I say Siggy's coached the 3rd and 4th best teams in MLS history, I'm including this year's Seattle team as one of the 3rd and 4th.
Oh, that is controversial.
I don't think so, because I think this is the best MLS has been in a long time. It might be the best it's ever been. And I do think the 90s are underrated. I understand that I was little and have like the little person bias that happens sometimes. But, like,
I don't think that's a little person. I feel like that's the wrong term.
Yeah.
okay, well, whatever. You know, like when you're a
Tell us more
child.
about this midget bias.
But you know what I mean? Like when you're a child and like the teams of your childhood were so much better in your memory than like the teams now. You know?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I think I think this is the best MLS might ever have been, and Seattle is kind of it slipped a little bit, but I still think at the end they will clearly be the best team this season. So
Okay.
While we're on coaches, since I have the records in front of me, since we already talked about Siggy, Bruce, and Dom Kinnear, can you guys name the other 3 MLS coaches who have more than 100 wins?
ooh, let's see. Hold on.
Without looking at the Tharb.
Let's Novak.
Novak is not on there.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Novak had 63 wins.
Oh dear. Okay. Let's see. Is Rongen on there?
Rongen has 83.
Oh, so close.
I'll let this run for another 30 seconds.
Okay. Can you give us a hint? How many are active?
1.
1 is active. Okay.
Well, sorry. 1 is active in MLS. 1 is active outside of MLS.
Bob Bradley.
Bob Bradley is 1. He has 124.
Okay.
1 is active in MLS. Is Frank Yallop on there?
Frank Yallop is the one that's still active.
Ah.
117.
got one!
Woo-hoo!
Nice.
Holy shit.
And the one remaining one is Steve Nickel with 112.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I would not have gotten that one.
Yeah.
Kreis has 90, but I'm sure he'll...
Nickel coached all those New England teams that almost but didn't win the MLS Cup.
Yeah.
So we're not real long on time here, guys. You ready for some lightning round 1 minute reactions here?
Let's do it.
All right,
Sacramento.
1 minute reaction. Sacramento. Supposedly the head officials from MLS are either setting up or about to take a tour of Sacramento possible stadium locations. And Josh wants to know if 4 Cali teams is too many Cali teams.
No, it's a giant state.
Yeah, I say no. I just trained through that entire state, and it took 2 hours to get from Oakland to San Jose. So you have as many MLS teams as you can put up. California, you're fine.
I fully agree. It's got something like an eighth of the nation's population. I can't imagine how anyone could make that argument, although people seem to try to do it all the time.
Well, the only thing that I will say, the reason why I ask about that is because there does seem to be a desire to, spread the teams around more and, get a better coverage. I don't know. I know California's got 40 million people.
And if they were gifting a team to a place that didn't have the interest or didn't deserve it purely because of like an ownership group, I'd understand. But unless this has changed, the last time I checked in the last year, Sacramento has the best MLS and World Cup ratings for a city without a team. Previous to the Republic coming in.
Yeah.
So I think that was with the 2010 World Cup. That may have changed with this year. But with the 2010 World Cup and MLS as a league, I believe that Sacramento is number 1, if not top 3, for ratings. So clearly the interest is there. Now we're seeing it with an actual team that's just blowing the doors out. I think it's a great idea, and that is not at least somewhat biased by the fact that that is my hometown.
There are a few expansion hopeful that are definitely ready. Sacramento's 1, Minnesota's another, San Antonio's a 3rd. I think Indy's a 4th, but they don't care about MLS for some reason.
Yeah,
and I think that's my list. I don't think any of the Carolinas are ready. I don't think Atlanta's ready, but whatever. Yeah.
How about moving on? Gold Cup 2015.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
It is a thing.
Josh, why do you hate fun?
I just hate third place playoffs. Me and Louis Van Gaal. Louis Van Gaal. Dude, hey, do you know more about soccer than Louis Van Gaal? No, you don't.
I just
Okay,
before we move on, I want to point out the show notes say USA official to host 2015 Gold Cup featuring a final. Like, really?
for the first time.
No. Sorry.